Languages are the key to unlocking the past. Among the many eras of history, humanity has shared ideas, culture, trade, and war through various languages. Many of these are called dead, have evolved into the languages we communicate with today. A historian is a detective, and through the evidence and literature, languages help him or her unlock the mysteries of the past and the legacies they leave today. Here, I will articulate why historians learn foreign and historical languages. There are 4 reasons why: primary sources, historiography, to work with others, and to present their findings. I'll explore these reasons and hopefully encourage you in your language learning journey. I'm Madeleine Rose Jones, and I study history, literature, and culture. Welcome to Snowy Fictions. We begin with primary sources. These are material artifacts created and or used during the time period studied. This may include manuscripts, letters, sound recordings, photographs, or speeches. It's not unusual for many primary sources to find homes in archives and museums. If, say, you are into the High Middle Ages in the Latin West, you'll certainly need excellent familiarity with Latin and, depending on your chosen topic, maybe Greek or even Arabic, for languages exist in a wide web and there are many connections and shared influences. Historians may start with a small topic where Latin seemingly is the only language needed. As the scope widens, there could be a need to incorporate sources in other languages. This is the case in European modern history. It's all well and good to assume studying Napoleonic France means French, but remember, Napoleon's campaigns crossed into Italy, Russia, and Germany. A historian may need to acquaint themselves with archives in those countries and with the primary sources written in languages other than French. You could spend time in the Vatican archives one day, but for the next, fly to St. Petersburg and consider documents written in Russian. We can see a clear importance of learning languages for historians. Translations can help, particularly for intellectual history and long texts. The reality is, most primary sources haven't been translated, and things can get lost in translation. It's also expensive to hire translators and at times to find someone suitable for historical translations. That said, a historian may draw on the expertise of translators and linguists. As I tried to convey in my humanities-themed channel, history exists alongside other humanities fields, including literature, theology, and art history. Primary sources can demand an interdisciplinary approach. They also require auxiliary skills like paleography and codicology, but primary sources for the historian need contextualization with something a bit different: historiography. This is the previous and ongoing writings of historians. It's important to acknowledge that historiography is not a modern invention. Herodotus, the ancient Greek historian and geographer, is frequently deemed the father of history and is crucial to our understanding of the Scythians, the Spartans, and numerous ethnicities around the Black Sea, as well as more broadly speaking, Hellenic history. He's not alone either. The Roman historian Plutarch also wrote on the Spartans and built on the previous work of Herodotus. That's the essence of historiography, building on the blocks of others. It's like the Tower of Babbel, which keeps going up and up, while various peoples are in conversation with the other. Naturally, this feeds into the need for language learning. Much of the historiography written is not necessarily in English. You'll frequently encounter German and French for history writing, and therefore it is usually prudent for European and Middle Eastern historians to understand those languages. This is certainly the case for ancient historians, as certain archaeological digs and research endeavours from the 18th to 20th century came from these lingua francas. The modern scholarship on antiquity in French and German is immense, But that's not all. A historian may narrow in and consider the historiography produced by a certain country. Perhaps an Anglo historian is interested in how contemporary Russian historians write about Ivan IV or Ivan the Terrible, and thus there is a need to understand Russian. The language learning demands of historiography vary depending on the area studied, but typically there's almost always a European language, particularly in the United States, Oceania, and African history. Being a historian is not a sole voyage. Whether they are working in a museum, a tourism board, a university, a publishing house, or running a YouTube channel, there's a need to work with others, whether they are clients or colleagues. Due to globalization and international travel, the need for knowing multiple languages is urgent, and whilst English is a global language, it's not necessarily the preferred language of communication. Historians may unlock more opportunities if they can adapt to the language needs of certain environments. An Anglo historian may move to China and teach at a university, and it would certainly help to, know Chinese. There's also the dreaded networking aspect of professional life these days. In the previous points, a historian may be able to navigate multiple languages without necessarily speaking certain ones. This changes for working with others. Here, the higher the level of ability, the better off the historian becomes. This feeds nicely into my final point, presenting your work to others. Again, historians have peers, readers, clients, and students. There's a critical importance on presenting one's work to others, and so often, the best language is one requiring speaking. That's why the ability to speak other languages will certainly help the historian. Presenting history can take multiple forms: teaching, in seminars, publishing, writing, library talks, or guided tours. The profession of history is never limited to universities. It is dynamic and constantly evolving to new technologies and opportunities. If you are personally interested in learning a language, whether you are a historian or not, there are many ways you can do this. Personally, I use the app Babbel for German and Russian, and I've linked it below. There is also a wealth of content on YouTube. You could take a class or two, or maybe even visit the country in question. Last year, I developed my courage and took a short course at the University of Queensland for Latin. Over the past months, I've watched Metatron's Academy, and the channel is simply marvelous. I encourage you to keep going in your language learning journey. It's long, it's hard, but it's rewarding. What languages can you understand? Do you have plans to learn another language? Comment below. I'd love to read your thoughts. And if you'd like, subscribe as I make frequent videos about history, literature, and culture. I also have a monthly mailing list linked below, as well as my blog, Snowy Fictions. Thanks for watching, and I will see you soon. Merry Christmas.